It is time to take on the bullet ant. Are they dangerous? Are they aggressive? Today, I will be picking one up to find out.
What up, Wildcats? It's me, Bobcat, and today I will be taking a sting from the giant tropical bullet ant, which is said to be the most painful thing in the entire known universe.
What?
But before that, remember to like and subscribe, and also check out some of our limited edition merch. It's pretty cool. Okay, let's talk about this insect, the giant tropical black bullet ant, Ponerinae calamita.
What?
This thing is indestructible. It's built like a tank, and I have it in front of my face using my official professional entomology chopsticks.
What?
Now, it's about time that I take a sting from this insect. It's gonna be intense. Okay, you know what time it is. Put your hands together. It's time to get stung on the tongue. I think I'm swollen.
I guess we need to talk about the bullet ant. The bullet ant requires little introduction. Among the millions and millions of insect species, they have become legendary, as for a long time they have held one title which has given them unique notoriety: the most painful insect sting in the world. Across their range in Central and South America, they go by many local names. The hormiga 24, the 24-hour ant, to indicate the amount of time the pain lasts, or the tucandera, that which wounds deeply. I remember first hearing about bullet ants on the PBS nature documentary Deep Jungle, Monsters of the Forest, back in 2005, where the host was out looking for giant tarantulas that supposedly could eat chickens, and ran into two bullet ants. Quickly said the sting was described as comparable to being shot, and talked about the warrior initiation rites of the Satere Mawe tribe, who weave bullet ants into gloves worn to initiate boys into adulthood. Several years later, I would be reintroduced to the bullet ant through a shortened version of the Schmidt Insect Sting Pain Index, boldly proclaiming the bullet ant as the most painful insect sting on Earth. The Schmidt Insect Sting Pain Index was developed by entomologist Dr. Justin Schmidt to understand the evolution of painful venom, scaling pain inflicted on a 1 to 4 scale, and is terribly misunderstood by most people I have ever talked to about it. Generally, they really don't see the index as serious science, just a fun example of effective science communication. And like the index is kind of silly, especially my favorite part of the whole thing where Dr. Schmidt describes each sting on the index like how vintners describe their wine. Hello, I will be serving you some of our Paraponera clavata. This is rated a 4+ on the Schmidt Insect Sting Pain Index. Look for a pure, intense, brilliant pain, like walking over flaming charcoal with a 3-inch nail embedded in your heel. The thing is, the reason Dr. Schmidt created the Insect Sting Pain Index and how the media ran with it is completely different. Reporters love superlatives, saying something like the most painful sting in the world, or some guy getting stung by all the insects to find out which one is the most painful for science, sells. I talk about this at length in a previous video I made on insect stings, but the reason the Schmidt Insect Sting Pain Index exists is to try and understand the evolution of how painful venom evolved in stinging Hymenoptera. The index was never about finding what was the most painful sting in the world, just getting qualitative data from a variety of insects to see how pain was related to other traits, primarily potency of the venom and colony size, which pain ends up having no relation to potency. Basically, many insect venoms contain compounds that mimic physical damage without doing any. However, both pain and toxicity were correlated with colony size. The evolutionary hypothesis being insects with larger colonies are bigger targets for predators, and because of increased predator interest, had to also be more toxic, so the predators never learned to just tough out the pain and reap the rewards of ransacking the colony. But everything about insect stings was about to be overshadowed, and the bullet ant was properly thrust into the public consciousness by one YouTube channel, Brave Wilderness, a brand now synonymous with insect stings. After a couple years of video production, these sting videos started from simple beginnings, where host Coyote Peterson took stings from harvester ants to educate viewers on whether ants bit or stung, but already hinted at plans to one day take a sting from a bullet ant. The popularity of this video quickly led to more and more stings, leading up to what Coyote Peterson dubbed the Bullet Ant Challenge, like it was the stupid cinnamon challenge or some other dumb thing children do to get attention on social media. And it worked. Brave Wilderness is massive, and while they were large by the time of the first stings, these videos brought in millions of viewers and directly resulted in the roughly 20 million subscribers they have amassed. But why am I bringing them up? Well, their size and visibility means they have been formative on how the wider public views bullet ants and other stinging insects. So before I go into the jungle and take on the bullet ant, I want to elucidate if insect sting videos like those on Brave Wilderness have been positive or negative for the public perception of these animals. Before I take a more critical look, I want to say I respect Brave Wilderness and see them as a net good for wildlife education and conservation. Though sure, the fact it has taken them years to even bring up the possibility of covering climate change bothers me. They have brought animals to millions and millions of people, especially children, and I would have absolutely been obsessed with this channel as a kid, and I know 8-year-old me would have desperately wanted one of their adventure kits. The channel has even taught children how to properly and calmly deal with accidental venomous snake bites. Their recent conservation content has been amazing, and honestly the cicada killer sting video felt like it had a purpose of dispelling myths about a big intimidating insect. However, I wanted to explore how Brave Wilderness represented bullet ants and other stinging insects in earlier sting videos, and if they created fear of these insects rather than the healthy respect I think they wanted to go for. Now, the brand Brave Wilderness has built around stings is pretty simple. Coyote catches some stinging insect, induces a sting or bite, and then yells, maybe rolling around on the ground for a bit. These reactions seem to mostly result in laughter from children watching the videos, at least according to interviews with Coyote and lines in some of the videos. This indicates Brave Wilderness sting videos are perceived as a form of slapstick comedy, and like they are very entertaining videos, and without these crazy reactions, I doubt Brave Wilderness would be as massive as they are today. One can argue, and Coyote Peterson did argue this during a Hot Ones interview, that these sting videos indirectly help wildlife conservation by drawing in viewers who then might watch one of their really good conservation-centered videos like Gar Wars or the Pangolin episode. While some of that is most certainly true, some people have only seen the sting videos, and I feel in many cases, while the effects of the stings on the human body are at some level communicated, I can't help but think they create fear of stinging insects rather than a healthy appreciation. As in my experience, really seeing awesome ecological interactions with ants and really appreciating them involves getting rather close, and I feel like these videos communicate not to touch these animals with a 10-foot pole, which I would consider a bit excessive. They should be respected and you should view them from a safe distance, but most of these insects you can safely get within a foot or two without being stung, and like bees and wasps regularly land on human skin. Is freaking out because you're afraid of being stung really the best thing? No. Probably you're more likely to get stung than if you stay calm. This, though, is just my own opinions, so I would really like to hear your own thoughts down in the comments section on if you think Brave Wilderness sting videos create more fear than curiosity. This is a very important question, as in my research, studies on the effects of what happens when fear and humor are combined, particularly in commercials aiming to get people to quit smoking or not drive under the influence of certain molecules, suggest that adding humor actually makes these advertisements more effective than if it is left out. Fear and humor acting complementary rather than in opposition. So in the case of a Brave Wilderness sting video where someone gets stung by an imposing insect with scary music playing, which results in writhing and pained noises, being perceived by the target demographic as silly, I cannot help but wonder if the combination increases fear of insects that have already evolved to make humans think twice before messing with them. Now, after seeking out Coyote Peterson interviews and watching through the Sting series, my takeaway was the goal of Brave Wilderness sting videos is to 1. Show the effects of these stings on the human body, and 2. Teach children to appreciate these animals from a safe distance. Personally, and this is my opinion, I think these goals are only sort of met. like beyond the reactions to the pain, the authenticity of which I have seen questioned by others. These videos do show physiological effects of the stings, whether the pustule formation after fire ant stings or the rapid swelling after the Japanese giant hornet sting, though for some reason the necrotic crater from the executioner wasp was only talked about and never shown. Honestly, I prefer the Great Outdoors or Jack's World of Wildlife's sting tests. They show these physiological effects a lot more clearly. I mean, even my old terribly produced harvester ant sting video test, which I personally do not like, goes into the effects of the venom physiologically and sort of describes the actual pain. And I even tend to overreact to stings and say a few expletives because I crave attention. By the way, kids, don't get stung by insects for the views. It is not going to make you famous. The market is too saturated. Also, why would you want to be famous for being the person who gets stung by random insects? I have been trying for years not to just be the quicksand person, but that has yet to change. I mean, that is one of my concerns with the second goal of Brave Wilderness sting videos. Their popularity invites copying, as does calling a sting something dumb like the bullet ant challenge. While stings are generally not fatal, allergic reactions to Hymenopteran stings are not terribly uncommon and can be fatal. So don't induce stings. It is just a dumb thing to do. Okay, now I'm going to go pick up a bullet ant. But before I get intimate with one, let's talk about the biology of this insect and that infamous sting. Paraponera clavata is rather impressive for an ant, at around 2.5 centimeters long. Evolutionarily, bullet ants are not particularly closely related to any other living ants, the generic name hinting that they are only distant cousins of Ponerinae ants. P. clavata is the only living member of the genus, with the only other known member, Paraponera dieteri, described from amber on the island of Hispaniola, dating to at least 15 million years ago, showing that this is a very long-lived genus, and that separation from other ant lineages happened in the distant past. This is what makes the venom of the bullet ant somewhat unique and more painful than most other ant species. It has had time to become different. The primary constituent of the venom is Ponerinae toxin, which at this time has only been found in the bullet ant. This venom binds to voltage-gated sodium ion channels, specifically the Nav 1.7 sodium ion channel, which is important in pain perception. The binded Ponerinae toxin makes it impossible for these ion channels to become inactive, causing the nerve to continuously send signals, while also causing a prolongation of the action potential, which sounds like it would create the throbbing waves of pain the sting has been described as causing. This continues for many hours, as the ant's local Venezuelan name, Hormiga 24, attests. To communicate to would-be predators that if they tangle with a bullet ant they will be in a world of hurt, the ant has several aposematic signals. On the legs are bright golden setae, which give the ant the appearance of wearing bright yellow tube socks. They can display this at an attacker, the yellow warning color giving off red flags. They also stridulate, making sounds by rubbing parts of the exoskeleton together, a sound which gives you chills when you hear it coming from your shoulder. However, how likely is it for a bullet ant to sting you? Are they aggressive? And is the sting dangerous? Finding a bullet ant can be quite tricky. They are overall quite rare on the landscape, though if you happen across a nest, particularly just after nightfall, you can see impressive swarms of them. My goal is to attempt to free-handle one of these large ants and see if they are aggressive, only taking a sting if the ant chooses to deliver one. By the way, now is a good time to remind you not to just pick up stinging insects. Leave them alone and they will leave you alone. After searching around for hours, I finally came across one.
Beautiful off this little hill. Oh my goodness gracious, there is a bullet ant. You see it right there by my finger. It's a nice example of one. Okay. I mean, this thing is actively avoiding me.
Okay, the bullet ant is on me. I'm now free handling a bullet ant. I'm just got to keep it from being pressed, and I shouldn't get stung. I'm going to move it to the foliage because it's a little intense. It's kind of irritated. Okay, it's on my boot. Okay, I have a bullet ant on me. And the fact is, it hasn't stung me yet. Oh, it just fell off. You can free handle bullet ants. No doubt in my mind. Okay, I have a bullet ant on me. This is absolute proof you can free handle bullet ants. Okay, I want it off. At this point. There. Oh. I am going to be honest. Free handling a bullet ant was intense. I wasn't quite sure what to expect, even having seen other people do it on video. First off, the ant definitely was aware of being on me, running about and otherwise freaking out, stridulating constantly. The behavior actually reminds me a lot of other times I've had ants on me, particularly harvester ants. Just this ant was big and loud, and well, a bullet ant. The display was quite intimidating, and I was actually trembling while the ant was running up and down my arms. That said, it is hard to know if I was nervous because the bullet ant has evolved to frighten would-be predators, or because of how much I'd been told the sting hurt. The way Schmidt described them as being able to sting within less than a second with just the briefest contact between ant and skin, and watching Coyote Peterson rolling around in the dirt. I mean, despite knowing the ants are unlikely to sting, when one did end up on my backpack next to my ear, I freaked out, which goes against everything I want you to take away from this video. So, I'm going to give you some advice if you ever find yourself within the range of Paraponera clavata. They do not want to sting you. In the case that you have one on you, you will probably hear the stridulation, and you can either get them off on your hand and calmly transfer them to some foliage, which I have done, or honestly, just flick the ant off. They may be able to sting fast like Schmidt says, but probably not any faster than other ants, and so you can quickly brush the ant off without taking a sting. Okay, so I showed the bullet ant isn't that aggressive, but is the sting dangerous? While much of the range is in more inaccessible areas, Dr. Justin Schmidt could find no case of a human dying from the sting of the bullet ant. This fed into the primary purpose of the Insect Sting Pain Index, as bullet ant colonies do not have the biggest collective biomass, and so do not need a super toxic sting to ward off predators, just one that mimics physical injury with pain, which seems to have been effective for millions of years. I would not say that it is impossible for the sting to potentially trigger an allergic reaction, as beyond the pain the sting does have some other symptoms such as swelling, but the bark, and especially the sting of the bullet ant, is far worse than any real damage they could do. I mean, except these bullet ants trying to get me lost in the night by removing trail flagging. Who knew when that bullet ants could get you? It would just be getting you lost out here in the woods. That could actually be deadly. I think Schmidt's observations about how in Costa Rica he could find signs warning tourists about bullet ants, but not once telling them to watch out for venomous snakes, really speaks to how this insect has become irrationally feared. I think, though, it is not necessarily a bad thing to be wary of the bullet ant. They are big, intimidating, and I don't want hours of throbbing pain, even if it doesn't make me collapse to the ground in a screaming heap. However, with their little noises and being rather conspicuous, I think they are really useful to remind people exploring the rainforest to be careful where they put their hands, and be aware of what may be surrounding where they are stepping. The Amazon is full of organisms far less forgiving than the bullet ant. There are medically significant large spiders and venomous snakes. The plants of the rainforest also can inflict injury to someone. Trees covered in spines, some thin and razor-sharp like needles. Others, like the spines of guadua bamboo, look like the sort of thing you would kill a vampire with, and I know can cause real physical harm. I think we should thank the bullet ant and other Hymenoptera for reminding us to pay attention to what we are doing outside, and not to absent-mindedly step on a bushmaster. My friend, the bullet ant may sound like a species to be feared. However, they are just animals trying to exist out in the rainforest that want nothing to do with a human. Yes, interactions between bullet ants and humans do occur, and sometimes the ant brings the greatly feared sting to bear. But for the unfortunate person, they will be left with a terrible pain that will cause them no long-term harm, and hopefully the ant can get back to helping collect food for their colony. They are by no means invulnerable. Injured bullet ants are preyed upon by tiny phorid flies, a slightly gross but interesting ecological interaction I had the opportunity to film. Footage I am very excited to have gotten, and one I only had the chance to observe because I knew I didn't have to fear bullet ants and could stay a few feet away. Watching battling bullet ants being swarmed by tiny parasitic flies. These ants are as special as their venom, which is one of a kind. Perhaps it has some medical or insecticidal uses for humans. Even if this compound does not, I imagine other species in the Amazon have unique biochemicals that could. It would be a shame for humanity to lose that and the potential economic gains tropical nations could receive by studying and developing potential pharmaceuticals and insecticides in the country of origin. At this time, the Amazon rainforest is under unprecedented threat primarily from cattle ranching, soy production for livestock, and other practices such as gold mining trying to bring economic growth to the people here. We must be conscientious consumers and trust that the bullet ant and other toxic species will lead the way to a wave of biochemical research in Central and South America, building economies that lead to the protection of these forests. There are animals in that tangle of foliage. Sounds like a velociraptor. That is a very distinctive looking bird.